Welcome, my name is Colleen Tauke and I'm the sewing specialist here at Fons and Porter. In this Sew Easy video, I'm going to show you how to do reverse fusible applique. I've got an example of it here on the Sewing Center, but the best example is the quilt behind me. You can see in the large white snowflake kind of stars, there are centers that are blue applique, and then sprinkled throughout the quilt, you'll see others that are white that look like a really fancy snowflake in there. And so we're going to show you how to do that process. And I have one in front of me here. What happens is that instead of cutting out the white and laying it on top, which is the traditional way, applique means to layer. Usually we're cutting out a shape and layering it on top. What we're actually doing is cutting away the blue. We've traced a shape. We're going to cut away and have an opening here and bring fabric from the underside to show as the snowflake. So let's see how this reverse process works. We're going to take a shape, like this is snowflake, and from our pattern that we used for this one, it asks us to enlarge the snowflake so you can make them in different sizes, but we've enlarged this to the size that's needed, and then we're going to be using a fusible agent. This happens to be Steam Seam 2, and it has paper on both sides. But what we do is lay this over the top and taking a permanent pen or permanent marker. Lead tends to get transferred to the fabrics around it, so a fine tip Sharpie or a permanent marker is a good thing to use when you're tracing your shape. So trace all the way around the shape so that you've got the image that you are going to cut away. And once you've got that all traced, I've got one completed here, all ready to go. What we're going to be doing is putting this on the back side of the blue fabric. So I've got one that's already, let me grab an extra piece of blue fabric and I'll show you how that goes onto it. What we're going to do is that one side of the paper comes away and the fusing agent stays attached to the other side. So I'm going to take away a paper layer. This one's kind of a tacky so that I can position it onto my fabric. So I can lay it, I can position it however you want depending on the alignment within the quilt. Just note the diagrams and how that needs to be aligned. I'm just going to lay it in place here. The nice part about the tackiness of this product is I can take it up and put it back down if I got a wrinkle in my fabric or if I decided I wanted to shift it to one side. So I've got it in place, and then I would take it over to the ironing board and I will adhere it to the back side of my fabric. Doesn't take very much heat, but just a little. Reference the material, the instructions that come with your product for the heat setting for your iron and the length of time that you need to heat it in order to bond it well to the back of the fabric. So this one's been bonded already, so they're very similar. So I'm going to go ahead now and show you what you do to cut away the snowflake shape. We're coming in, and one thing is you got to kind of think about what part are we taking away. So we're coming in here, we're making a kind of snip in the fabric. We're cutting through that agent, the bonding agent, the paper layer, and the fabric. And you're going to cut right on the shape of that snowflake all the way around. Now this isn't a fast process. This is a little bit more tedious because that cut is the actual edge of your snowflake. So you want it to look really nice. So you just work your way around the snowflake, making a nice neat cut. And we'll take away just that one piece there so you can see. I go into the corner and around. And you'll probably want to just take away pieces at a time so that your design stays nice and neat. Especially with a very intricate design like this, take your time and do a nice neat cut. So there's one of the points. We continue our way all the way around. I have one already cut out. We would need time-lapse photography in order to get that cut. But now you can see this is almost like a lacy snowflake now. And I still have the bonding agent on there. And what I do then is I take that away. And it's going to be tacky on the edges. Now you've got those really fine areas that you trimmed. You're going to want to take it away very gently so that you don't damage your applique. Just loosen it all the way around and up through those little tiny pieces. Everything you learned about making snowflakes in school when you were a kid is going to come into play in this one. There we go. Whoops, last little piece. Now this is tacky so that I can then lay it onto a white piece of fabric, which I have underneath, and I can position it down over. And because it's repositionable, it'll give you that fun chance to move things around. If you need to use a stiletto to get things lined up and make them nice and neat, but you can tack that just by tapping it with our fingers to get it kind of aligned, and then it will hold in place well enough for me to transfer it back to the iron to heat set that. It's a nice part about this kind of a fusing agent. Extra layers of white underneath there, we don't need those. We'll take those away. So I can come over to the iron, and once I have everything in position where I want it, then I can do this nice little heating. Again, the reference to material you're using and the time and heat. And now at this point, then all I have to do is I have to go in and I need to secure the edges. I need to stitch those edges. And you can choose a satin stitch, a decorative stitch, a blanket stitch. In this case, the designer of this quilt decided to do a satin stitch, fairly heavy, and used a heavier or a shinier fabric to kind of give it a Christmas glisten kind of feel to it. So in this case, I picked a blue that's very similar in a blue thread to use for that edge. Now, some tips when working with the satin stitch on your sewing machine. One thing you may want to invest in if you don't already have is an open toe foot, which means it leaves the space in the front of the needle open, and it gives you a better view of what you're actually stitching. And then you're going to want to set your satin stitch on this one. For the stitch that I created, I went with a width of 2.0 and a length of 0.2 millimeters, so that you will then go in and stitch around all of those shapes. Again, this is kind of an investment, a labor of love, so you want to come in. I've got red thread in here right now so that you can see when I pull it out of the machine. We'll see how well I can stitch the edge. It's always a test to see when you're stitching right next to the edge. It's a very slow step process with just a real gentle curve. You just move real slowly and work your way around the shape. Let's take it out so we can see. You're going off the edge of the blue into the background and then into the white, just enough to adhere that edge. And you have reverse fusible applique for your next winter project or any other time of year. If you'd like to see more of our Sew Easy projects and videos, please visit our website. Thanks for joining me today.